Hey, Chris.
Hi, Jake. Jacob.
Did you know, Chris,
What?
that it is... It is August 25th, 2016.
All I know is that it is Idle Thumbs 277, and I'm Chris Remo.
I'm Nick Brecken.
I don't know.
I know you're Nick Brecken. I've always known you're Nick Brecken. I've always known you're Nick Brecken.
That's good.
I'm Jake Rodkin.
I don't know about that. Hey, guys.
Hey.
You want to talk about some video games?
Sure.
Nice. Deus Ex came out, and I'm really excited that a new Deus Ex game is out because I liked the last one a lot. But I've barely been able to play it for a variety of reasons, including the fact that yesterday I the day before yesterday, I tripped a circuit in my apartment when I was using too many kitchen devices at the same time. And I went to reset it, and then I accidentally flicked the one that my computer runs on as well.
Oh,
and
so then your computer turned off and you didn't know what to do.
So and then it wouldn't turn back on again.
Oh.
Yeah, it was very bad. I think I blew out my power supply, so I had to order a new one overnight from Amazon. And then I ordered a new case as well, because my old case had basically become... I realized that, like, I had...
You were like, well, might as well get a new case for this computer.
Well, because
you had to upgrade your...
You guys know,
what's the
paradox where, like... You know the paradox where... maybe it's not a paradox, but it's one of those ancient Greek things that one of those ancient Greek guys talked about, where, like, the ship of something, where...
Should have done that in the George W. Bush voice.
The ship of Theseus. Wow, nice pull. So where the ship is, like, on a voyage, and as it's on the voyage, they replace, like, every individual bit of it over the course of the voyage. Is it still the same ship? Like, it looks identical to how it did before, because in each case you're just replacing one little piece, but then by the end of it you've replaced every single piece in the whole ship. Is it still the same ship? Like, versus, catastrophic damage, you have to, like, rebuild it. It's essentially total and you rebuild it. Is that the same ship? Like, oh, maybe not, but what's the difference? Like, in both cases you've replaced all the materials. So anyway, my computer is basically like a much shittier ship of Theseus that has existed for like a decade now. I think I first built this computer in like 2006 when I was living in the original apartment where we used to record this podcast. And I think every single part had been replaced except for the case. So it's not quite a ship of Theseus. And, but that meant that it's basically just been like a decade-long lint collector. Like, I realized I have this box that has, like, traveled with me across the country twice, like in 2 different states and like 4 different cities and, who knows how many apartments. And everything else inside of it had been like, nice new piece. Anyway, I'm just putting it inside this box of dirt that I basically tote around with me. And, like, there were holes in the front of it because I no longer have as many. Yeah, there was, like, old drive bays that I'm no longer using. Like, my old floppy disk drive is no longer in there, and, like, my old sound cards are no longer in there. So they're just holes because I long since lost the original plates that came
those
with
little
it.
plates.
Yeah. So it was just a piece of shit. So I ordered a new computer case when I ordered the new power supply, and I rebuilt the whole thing. And I did, like, the thing that, Jake, you suggested that I said I wasn't going to do, which was route all the cables through the backside, so when you open the main panel, you don't see most of the cables.
Computers look so nice when you take the other plate off and run all the power leads and the IDE leads back there. Oh, it's so nice. And then when all that was done, you had just enough time, I'm betting, to play the shitty first mission.
50 gigabytes of this game. This game is so huge.
Yeah.
I guess games are just big now. I mean,
games
I've
are
this
all
game's
50
full.
gigs now. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So it took me, like an hour to download that, and then I had exactly enough time before I finally just like had to go to bed to play through the bad mission.
Why? I mean, that's a thing in games in general, but it seems like it's also specifically a thing in the last 2 Deus Ex games.
Yeah, I think that there must be a, not having worked on a game like this at that scale, I'm sure there must be on the team some kind of unavoidable...
People need to learn how to do everything in a very controlled way, but additionally, they need to learn 40 minutes of characters walking through hallways and saying exposition to each other.
This game could have been worse in that regard, although I did skip the thing that's like, would you like to watch a 12-minute recap of the previous game? It's like, nope. And, to this game's credit, this is the new Deus Ex game. Deus Ex Mankind Divided, I believe is the name of the game.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't the like super guided tutorial bits where it's like literally go here, go here, go here. Those are optional and you can sort of launch them in the game. Like, so when you hit a point where the game's like, I'm going to teach you how to use stealth now or use cover or whatever, you can go into that tutorial mode and it will sort of overlay the tutorial mode on top of the level you're in, but you can also just not do it, which is nice. So the thing that was honestly more frustrating to me about this mission is that it felt like such generic video game. It was like you're going to Dubai and then you fight people who are speaking Arabic, and it's not explicitly about like terrorism, but it has those overtones in the way that sort of every just ends up feeling like a call of like a modern sort of
warfare.
Exactly.
Like a Call of Duty.
I don't know. It just feels like the least inspired choice. Yeah. Right? It's like
it's super frustrating, especially considering you know that whatever comes after this opening sequence is going to be.
Yeah, everyone says the hub in this game is great.
The hub in the last game was great too, right?
It was, yeah. That was like in that game, that was the moment where that game unfolded into feeling like amazing, and I expect that this one will feel great too. It was just such a bummer to go, because in a game, the amount of time I spent just playing that opening stuff is like I could have watched most of a movie in that time. And like, why am I playing just kind of
You could have. You had the opportunity to spend 12 minutes watching one, Chris.
That's true. And it's like, why am I just playing not as good version of this video game? Like what value is that adding? And it's just, the story is also like people with augmentations are hated by society, and they're like lashing back, and there was this, and so on and so on. That's fine. But that also feels like just such an overdone concept at this point. Like that's what every superhero movie is now. It's like, or like it's what X-Men movie already was like a decade ago. And now that's, people with crazy abilities are basically being treated like marginalized people in the real world. And I don't know.
It's my hope that at least some axes that you're talking about are on the way out. I mean, it seems like in the last 6 to 9 months, a lot of the bigger releases that we've talked about, we've been surprised by the fact that the opening tutorial mission seems to be either crunched way down or removed, and talking about sort of like, I think it might have been the Tomb Raider game. Man, which was it? There were a few games we were talking about right in a row there.
Probably Hitman as well.
Yeah, Hitman as well. In the beginning of this year, that were like, oh, okay, these are games that have huge production values, and maybe, I think we said, maybe because of Minecraft, who knows, are less afraid of just throwing the player into the systems right off the bat. And hearing you and a lot of other people talk about Deus Ex opening the way that it does, it feels like a choice that's like a half generation out of step to me at this point.
I think that's true, but I am really looking forward to getting into the hub, because it's in Prague, I think, and that seems like a really cool setting, and I'm looking forward to that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that there's like Dubai itself is like an intrinsically bad setting. It would be cool to play a game set there that's like, oh, the skyscrapers are like crazy and like nothing anywhere else, and tall and not destroyed. Like that would be cool. Maybe there is.
So you want like Crackdown Dubai?
I don't know. Oh man, that would actually be really good.
I know, Chris. That's why I pitched it.
Wow, yeah. I do. Well, I did. I had to spend like 2 seconds remembering what the implications of a Crackdown game were, and then I remembered. Oh, right. Of course, you climb to the top of the highest building and collect a little green orb
and leap off of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
man, Crackdown was so fun. What a good game. Anyway, I'm sorry for just bagging on Deus Ex. I mean, I haven't played enough of it to like have much of an opinion. It was just, it was a bummer that like certain very specific things that I've already been tired of were just the first thing I encountered.
It freaks me out a little bit because I'm a person who, getting me into a Deus Ex game is always an ordeal, even though I know that I'll like it once I get into the meat of it.
Yeah.
It's like going to a party that I know that I'll enjoy once I like get through into the door and like get myself like a
the
snack.
social
Like,
awkwardness of,
once
like,
I sort
all
of
the
push my way
intros and
through
all
the
that
room of
bullshit,
people,
and then, like, okay.
find the place and like drink, have a sip of something, and then sort of see someone I know. Then like I'm having a good time.
Limber up a bit.
Yeah, but like
loosen those neurons.
Those like. The opening of games like this feel like that to me, where it feels like I have to push through the whole awkward part of like get myself out of the apartment, get in the car, get like a little ways into a party, and then I'm like, okay, it's great. I'm glad I came.
Like Deus Ex, part of what makes that initial party opening awkward for you is that you arrive in wraparound shades and a long black trench coat. And you feel
I'm making it harder for myself.
Yeah, you feel very out of place. You're like, I'm really not at ease in this situation.
Also, when you said like Deus Ex, it sounds like you're referring to the protagonist as Deus Ex.
You know when Deus Ex shows up in his trench coat
Mr.
and
X.
shades?
God, someone's name being that Mr. X, Deus Ex.
Steve Gaynor's child.
Deus Ex Gaynor.
Square Enix will pay any family.
Deus Ex Gaynor. Naming your kid Deus Ex is amazing.
Well, Steve got
God from my last name.
Steve got a free Deus Ex season pass from Square Enix for naming his first kid that.
That tattoo is never coming out, though. It's never going away.
Steve probably has a Deus Ex tattoo.
Probably.
He has an 0451 tattoo, which is close enough.
Yeah. 0451 already showed up in the amount that I've played of this game.
So there you go.
Yeah.
It would.
I just put that in without even thinking about it, and the door opened, and I was like, okay, great. Like, presumably there's a way to find it, because obviously you can't assume anyone knows that.
There's like a tired montage of some sort of film of basically like X-Men underground compounds, but it's just tired gamers all going to work, going everyone punching in to just get into the fucking perfunctory door.
Yeah. Anyway,
a secret code.
Yes.
But you guys played the phone.
We did.
Deus Ex
wait,
game.
one thing real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, talking about Steve having that stupid tattoo. A video game in which there is a locked door early on, and there is also a dead nerd, and the way that you get in is by reading their tattoo. And that is the puzzle. Like some fucking CSI game.
What is the fictional reason for that?
Oh, like it is like a CSI situation, and like an elite pro gamer has been killed, and they keep stuff in their safe, and the code to that person's safe is 0451.
Oh,
and you as just like
body.
the buddy cop partners who know nothing about this strange world, do an LA Noire investigation.
Oh, so
and
you come in, you presumably come into the scene after people have been milling around the crime scene for a while, not getting anywhere, and then you out of the corner of your eye spot the tattoo.
And it goes when you see it.
Oh.
And then then their arm sort of starts pulsing once you see it.
Oh, okay. This is different than I was expecting.
No. This is just LA Noire, except that you find Steve Gaynor's tattoo and get into his safe.
So it's glowing in a non-diegetic way.
Yes,
you're not like a psychic.
No. I mean, you could
not the mentalist.
If this is a Quantic Dream investigation game, if it's a game, if it's an
the tattoo on the arm glows, and then the corpse turns into like a huge walking cockroach or something.
No. Quantic Dream is Heavy Rain and that new Android detective game.
Didn't they also make Fahrenheit?
Oh, they did. You're right. So maybe it does turn into a cockroach and everyone hangs onto a helicopter or whatever. Anyway, sorry, we played Deus Ex GO, which is just like what I'm describing.
That's true. Yeah. So Deus Ex GO is the third?
Yes,
I think so,
game in the Go series. Fourth game following Pokemon Go.
Oh. I'm following Go.
Oh, fifth game. So we have Go, Hitman Go, Lara Croft Go, Pokemon Go,
and now Deus Ex Go.
Deus Ex
there
Go.
were a couple aberrations in the series. It's like Zelda 2, Mario 2 type situation, where one of them is an ancient game and one of them is an AR game with Pokemon.
The Mario 2 of this series ended up becoming the canonical one, which is Go. Go is like this formula.
What are we doing?
Okay, sorry. Bye.
Anyway, what is Hitman Go, Chris? It's the third game in the Go series.
Hitman Go, the fifth game in the Go series, like two of its predecessors, takes a franchise owned by Square Enix, formerly Eidos, and reinterprets it as a sort of single-player, turn-based puzzle game in which you move around a kind of
grid
like a sort of like a little node map, And as you move, enemies also move. So you move once, enemies move once. You move once, enemies move once. One space at a time. And each one of these games has other mechanics in it that sort of boil down some of the elements of their sister kind of console and PC games to like just a little bite-sized mechanic. And so, Lara Croft Go had, you threw spears at enemies and stuff, and Hitman Go, you would sometimes find sniper rifles and take out an enemy across the map. And in Deus Ex Go, there's increasingly, as you progress through the game, there's more and more usage of like hacking computer terminals to modify the board. So, you can hack into a computer terminal, and that will allow you to sort of route that terminal into, let's say, 3 different other endpoints on the board, one of which will like turn an enemy turret to your control, and one of which will sort of fill in a segment of floor that would otherwise be a gap. And one of them will fill in a different segment of floor, and when you fill in that one, it will now like open up a patrol route for an enemy that couldn't otherwise move. And maybe now that you've done that, that enemy will walk in front of a turret so that you can pass by without the turret shooting you, and then you get to the other side, and maybe you disconnect that computer terminal, and now the enemy is trapped on one side of the floor.
That sounds like it's actually but it sounds like it's an evolution or a next step of the pressure plates that they introduced in Lara Croft Go. Because Hitman Go was like, obviously it's the first one, it was the most sort of simple and clean, not in a bad way simple, like it was just the most
really
pared down,
excellently clean,
where it was almost entirely about navigating the world so that when your game piece moved onto a guard's game piece, the guard wasn't facing you, so you could take it out, and that was it. And then Lara Croft Go introduced, most notably, that you could either sort of like kite enemies onto pressure plates that would make the world move, or you could walk on them and it would open or close routes, or spin an enemy around or whatever. So it seems the hacking thing seems like that, but now since they have the computer metaphor and not just an Indiana Jones stone turning around, you can do more complicated things.
For sure. And the thing so when I started playing this game, my first thought was, okay, it's another one of these. And it took me a few levels of kind of feeling like, okay, it's basically, more Go in the style of Hitman or Lara Croft. But then the more I've gotten into it, I think this series is just absolutely great, and I think the way that they manage each time to really drill down into some difference between the 3 games, like to some extent, they're kind of just deciding to make the mechanics different. It's like it's not as though any of these games really truly mirror their console counterparts, but that doesn't matter. That's not really the point. Like, the point is they're taking the differences in their console and PC counterparts and using those to explore just different ways you could make one of these little turn-based puzzle games. And so one of the differences, anyway, between this game and what you're describing in Lara Croft Go is that in Lara Croft Go, enemies will follow you, so you can kite them around. But in Deus Ex Go, all enemies will only execute a specific patrol route. And so if you enter into an enemy's line of sight, they will start moving towards you, but they will only stay along that straight path. If you then turn around a corner, they will move to the last point at which they saw you, but they won't keep following you.
Right.
And so it's like sort of softly approximating the idea that in a stealth game, enemies, you can kind of like treat them like idiot robots a little bit, as long as you're careful, by kind of just getting out of their way, and then they'll give up and go back to their post. So enemies will always try to return back to their post if you shake them.
The other thing that this game does on top of that I really liked, having played the other Go games, is when you do aggro an enemy and it sees you, there's like this fictional thing where they have like a charge shield or something, but it shows on the node map, it draws a red line in the direction they're going to go and how far they're going to chase you. Like, if there's a really long straightaway, sometimes a guy will only run either up to the point that you are, or like only like N nodes before turning around, where it's like they just...
I think they'll always run to the point at which they saw you.
They saw you, and then they'll stop.
And they'll turn around.
Yeah, but just being able to see that line visualized is huge. Anyway.
Yeah, well, and it makes that patrol route thing like more explicit.
Yeah.
And so anyway, my point with like explaining that difference is not that it's like better than the Lara Croft system. It's just that it's different and it changes the way the game plays more than you'd think. Just considering the fact that it looks exactly the same and the UI is very similar. And it means that they just can design totally different kinds of puzzles. So at the beginning, for the first kind of set of puzzles, so you're solving a lot of similar sorts of puzzles as you were in the previous game. But the farther the game goes in, once you really start using the sort of hacking mechanic, and these patrol routes get more complicated, and then there's like sort of mech robot enemies that are introduced that have their own behavior, including undoing your computer routing. Like they just throw these other very simple stripped down mechanics in there that tweak the base systems enough that you can solve a totally new set of challenges relative to the ones you solved in the last game. And it feels like pure game design in a really cool way. I mean, it's like it's really awesome that there is a studio at a major publisher that is making franchise games that are this game designy. Just like pure game design. It's really, really cool. And
there's an analogy in Fallout Shelter, maybe.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But I just think these games are great. Sorry, what, Nick?
Just remind me, these are published by Eidos, yeah?
Yeah, Eidos is Square Enix now. So,
right.
I think they're still called Eidos Montreal. No, maybe they're Square.
I think it is Square Enix Montreal.
Yeah, I kind of forgot what the relationship was in terms of.
They're just fully owned.
But they're just fully owned now. Okay.
Oh, the Chris, you and I were talking before we recorded, and I was wondering if maybe the campaign in this game is shorter than in previous ones. And the reason that I was wondering that is because in addition to the in addition to the just fixed campaign, there's a second button in the main menu which is called Live, where it seems like every day there's a new daily challenge that they're putting out, but they don't.
Cool.
They don't. Either they don't.
Oh, that's right.
They initially didn't let me play it until I had played at least through the first chapter of the single player, and I'm not sure if that's the case anymore. But yeah,
I think you can choose to just do it yourself.
Yeah, it puts up a recommendation. But yeah, there's in addition to the fixed campaign, they seem to be either every week or every few days putting new content up, which
I think it's every week.
Okay,
I'm not sure about that, but yeah. I mean, I'm 42 levels in. I mean, it seems like a pretty decently long campaign. I don't know how many more there are, but I've played a lot of levels of this game, and there are more.
But yeah, I don't know. It's good.
I mean, man, I have to say, part of my. It's interesting talking about two Deus Ex games back to back, and I know this is not obviously a fair or direct comparison, but it is so nice to play this game where you just immediately you load it up and you immediately just start playing the actual real game that you're playing. Whereas I'm playing this other Deus Ex game, and I know that they're not actually related in any way other than
and some aesthetics.
Yeah, but it does draw sharp relief between just the assumptions we make about mobile games and the assumptions we make about full-scale console and PC games. And it's not to say that there are like precisely applicable lessons or best practices you can draw from one to the other, because again, there are a lot of other considerations. But there is something to be said for that sensation of like, I downloaded this game and I can just start very quickly, maybe not instantly, but like pretty quickly getting the thing out of it that the point of the game is.
Yeah, it seems like there's still a conception across, it seems like the large majority of video game development, that once your game is 3D, that is not allowed because people just aren't going to understand how to interact with it. Like, if obviously unless you're Minecraft, I guess. And I don't feel like I don't know. I mean,
I'm sure that's still true for a lot of I mean, I'm sure that there's like a chunk of the audience that just buys fewer games a year, is less familiar with. But the funny thing about the Deus Ex level is that it still felt like I did not feel like an approach. Like the first level wasn't like just super dumb tutorial. It was a full on video game,
right?
So it's not as though if you didn't know what you were doing, you would just skate through it. Maybe the answer is like design those things to be sort of narratively superfluous and just say, you can skip that. Like, you can just tell the player.
I still think that both Half-Life 1 and the first BioShock are like pristine examples of how to ease people into understanding how your world works and how your mechanics work and whatever else, but not feel like they're fucking it up. And it's because they let you spend a lot of time inhabiting the world and a lot of time inhabiting the physicality of your character and the basic verbs, and then they hand you, here's how you interact, here's how you fight with someone.
True. You know, that's a really good point. I think the applicable thing to this situation is that those games both put you directly into the actual place the games are set.
Mm-hmm.
If I were doing all the shit that I was doing in this level, but I was in a really cool environment, I think I probably would have been a lot happier about it.
Right.
I think part of I was just annoyed by like this weird, like you're in Dubai ruined zone.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Anyway, I'll stop belaboring that point because I've talked about it so much.
Well, okay, yeah.
No, I don't know if you have another thing to say.
I think, well, I don't know. I haven't played this Deus Ex, but so I don't, this is not in regards to that game in particular, but I think the other thing that is just generally smart about the way that Half-Life 1 and BioShock 1 open, and I mean Half-Life 2 and BioShock Infinite, whatever, those games, and BioShock 2, and Half-Life Lost Coast and Opposing Force.
Minerva's Den.
Great DLC.
Blue
BioShock
Shift.
2 multiplayer.
Yeah. Popular Half-Life fan levels. No, just the way that the games like that open is they pick, if you're like, we're going to teach people the history of the world and the history of their character and how to move your character and how to engage in combat and how to do complicated interaction. Like, if there's like, it seems like they just pick about half to 2/3 of the things that you need to know and make sure you're familiar with those in a dedicated chunk, as opposed to, like, at least my experience with Deus Ex 3 felt like they were trying to make sure that by the end of that tutorial I had been lore dumped, made familiar with my character, taught how to move, taught how to fight, taught how to like navigate the space, taught how to open and close my inventory, and it was just like, I bet that I don't need all of these things to be shown to me. I bet you could just figure out enough pieces to let me feel comfortable and then start laying stuff in over the main game. I don't know. I mean, it's a common thing like that.
Yeah. I mean, tutorials are tough.
Yeah, they are. But it's when your tutorial stops being a tutorial and starts becoming introduce the player to every single thing in the game, so that then when the real game starts, they're fully prepared and already are on the road to mastery of all systems. Like,
Yeah, the thing that's so tough about I don't even know. It's hard because there's something really nice about sort of finding stuff yourself. And then the flip side of that is when a player plays through the entire game without even knowing half of the inputs exist, which I think, as I recall, BioShock 1...
Oh, yeah, to BioShock 1's detriment, who the hell uses half the plasmids who ever upgrades a gun in that game? Like, probably not most people.
Yeah.
Or like you touch...
I mean, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this podcast
did,
but I mean... But I just know from having worked at Irrational that kind of thing was a problem.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure for most people who are game developers who listen to this, you probably, I don't know, the first level of your game, like in a game like a Deus Ex or a BioShock, or like the first like 2 or 3 levels are probably the ones that 6 months after your game is out, you just wish to all hell that you could go back and rip them apart and redo all of it in a completely different way, because now that the game is all done and you've had a chance to sit with it and you've seen people play it, you're just like, okay, I know what this needed to be.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Also, if anyone who worked on the new Deus Ex game is listening, I'm excited to keep playing the game.
Yeah, holy shit! This is not like this is not actually a negative conversation about this game. Sorry, this is.
And to anyone else who's listening who's tired of
us talking about
that, we're done now.
Bye. We're gonna go play it forever now.
Nick, you played Planet Coaster.
You
love it.
I love it.
You were posting. You couldn't get over yourself on Twitter last night about how good this game is.
I couldn't do it.
And then you posted screenshots from it, and I had no idea that it looked like that. It looks really nice.
Yeah.
I kind of just
should have listened to me when I talked about it on the podcast last
time,
Chris.
but I think the thing that I imagined when you were describing it was I just didn't update my mental image from old Roller Coaster Tycoon games.
Well, and to be fair, I talked about a lot of those games that are out right now, which still look like that, and are following that model. But this game is not. This game is crazy.
It also felt like early on in Planet Coaster's development, because it's been a sort of live development, early access type thing. There wasn't as much like accoutrement out in the world other than the roller coasters. Like at least the early images that you showed, it looked like it didn't look wacky and cartoony, but I feel like the stuff that people are doing now, the sheer volume of content stacked into a theme park makes it very apparent what the aesthetic is, and you're just making it.
So
Disneyland.
what is describe how this game looks and feels, if you can at all.
I mean, it's got kind of a...
And this game, actually, real quick, this game is an early access, right? Planet Coaster?
Yeah.
So you can get it on Steam.
It launched on Steam on, I guess, Tuesday.
In full or in early access?
In early access, sorry.
It was
previous to that, you could get it on the website.
It was just on the developer's page.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, aesthetically speaking, it's more along the lines of something like SimCity, like the recent SimCity.
Like SimCity, yeah.
Where the actual characters, like the people walking around your park, are stylized, and the architecture is just gorgeous and just fucking like. I mean, like as you say, Jake, probably like I think this thing launched in the first alpha around like April, and they had kind of the very basic building blocks in, but now they've reached. And I was waiting. I didn't play a lot of this game because I knew there was going to be this like threshold moment of it crossing over and becoming worthwhile as like, all right, now I'm going to build my thing, and I'm going to spend 1 billion hours making something that looks good. And yeah, it seems like that's the point that they've reached, where you can go into the little folder, like the little like scenery folder, and there's just so much stuff that you can basically make anything you want to.
Is that the main difference from when you last played? Is just volume of content? And I mean, does it essentially feel like you're playing basically a fully realized game that just could have more stuff in it?
Yeah, they also added the actual like theme park management stuff, like that layer, which without that, it's kind of it's like. That's actually the problem I have with City Skylines, where that game feels still to me a little sandboxy. Whereas if you
the disaster pack has finally shown up for City Skylines now.
Oh,
yeah. So it's
that's good. So you can have like a weird like dinosaur.
They have acts of God are either in or are on their way into that game now. So if you want to have things to fuck you up, you're well. If that's what you like, I don't know.
No, the thing that I miss in that series that like SimCity 4 last did well, which is just giving you like a ramp, like basically like a challenge curve throughout the sort of life of your city. Like you hit just certain blocks and you go, okay, I need more residential at this point. Well, then that's going to unfold like 1 billion other challenges that I didn't realize I was going to have to deal with. And like that's a really hard thing to create within a systemic game like this.
Yeah, definitely.
And I feel like that's the thing that cities just kind of like they added tourism, but it doesn't really ever push up against the systems in a way that makes you have to worry about it.
Cities seems like it is, like you said, more about just like having fun building a grandiose, cool city.
And which is totally fine for me.
Yes.
But I know insufficient for a Brecken.
Well, it's not insufficient. I mean, it's disappointing, Chris.
Yeah, well.
But no, like
you want that poop to back up and everyone to be mad at you.
No, I want that poo to back up like every day. I want to just be like covered in poo, just like running around my city.
So your theme park,
panicked. Yes. So my theme park is a gorgeous place. Well, yeah, I called it Dump Town, so that's fine.
Where the poo piles up with the fun.
Yeah. Actually, there is a giant turd. In my theme park right now.
Did you sculpt that with the terrain tool?
No, I didn't. It was a prefab.
Okay, so it just comes with a giant turd.
Yeah, it does.
Every emoji is available as a prop.
Yeah,
including levitating businessman.
Yeah,
levitating man in business suit.
In business suit. Yeah. Anyway,
no, I suspect that this game will end up being more akin to cities in that way, where the theme park management stuff is in there. It's kind of just a light background thing. But really what this game is it feels like just a sandbox tool. And the tool itself is just fucking crazy. Like, they basically made... like, on the surface level, you can just place prefabs, and it's fine. Like, if you just want to just play a stupid theme park game, it's fine. You can just, put your little teacups here and draw a road and do whatever, and it just works fine. But
that's already super impressive to me, by the way. But anyway,
yeah. No, it's great. But then underneath that, there's probably the second of 3 layers, which is that all the prefabs. There's essentially a building component. And when I say building, when you start placing a prefab, it creates a new building that the game recognizes as a separate entity from the rest of the geometry in the world.
You mean your teacups ride is registered separately, or what?
Yeah, no, basically. So there are rides that are prefabs, and then there are buildings which are custom things that you make out of other prefabs. So it's basically a weird game engine hierarchy thing that you're assembling, but the game just kind of says, okay, this is now that you're placing a prefab, this is building 32.
So what's an example of what you can do with that? Because I still not entirely understand what you're saying.
I mean, you can basically do anything with it.
Okay, so that's not helpful.
Well, I'm just so you can place a wall, right? And then start cobbling things onto it. And then once you start doing that, it says, okay, this is building 20. And then you can take basically anything inside of the game that is just a piece of geometry or an animated figure or something, and then as you're placing that, you could place that halfway across the map, and it's still part of that building.
Okay.
And then you can duplicate those things in the way that you could within Maya, and then you can place them in a prefab folder. And so basically you're just creating chunks of stuff.
Crazy.
So the difference between this game and something like Roller Coaster Tycoon is that you can create facades, which is what an actual theme park is.
Do they have mechanical properties? Do they get judged on aesthetics or anything, or is it more just is that just I'm not saying that because I want it. I'm saying just I'm curious.
I don't know if it's one of the things they just added is that people have thoughts and they have needs and stuff.
Right.
I don't know if they're judging based off of that stuff. I just haven't been able to observe that.
But the system you're describing. So Jake was asking for examples, and I think the system you're describing is what allowed you to say create a castle facade for your roller coaster, where your roller coaster
that the roller coaster could then go through
the castle.
Yeah. So I mean, basically, within. So yeah, I have a roller coaster that's going through this castle. That castle, though, is a separate building. The roller coaster itself is not really part of that thing, which means that you can just basically you can just click on anything in the world that's not a ride, and it's just entirely separate from those rides, and they can collide.
The fact that you can intersect a roller coaster track through a building,
right,
is hardcore, because that's what would let you conceivably make the Haunted Mansion or whatever.
But then there's a third layer, which is that you can then go into advanced movement mode, and it just turns into Maya, where you just have the rotational full rotational controls and just everything that you would have within.
So instead of just plopping buildings like you do in SimCity, you can actually start placing geometry around.
Yeah, and the other thing that building, the way the prefab thing works is you have a couple of different controls in terms of how new pieces operate. So you can have them snap to the building faces, or you can not. And then just have things intersecting and just creating weird cobbled structures. It's
for your Tim Burton theme park.
Yeah, and then they have a whole other thing, which is there are buildings, and then there's scenery, and the scenery has special effects and things. So you can basically just go in and place particle effects and new light sources and shit like that. So I just made. There's a prefab that's just a crazy spooky witch's tower or something. It's like a tree with a house on top of it, and then there's an animated little witch at the bottom of it. And I was like, okay, well that's fine, but it doesn't look that spooky. And so I took a bush and placed the bush.
Brecken's not scared.
Yeah. Well, so I took a spotlight. And then you can change the color of the spotlight to purple or whatever. So I made it purple. I backlit. I backlit the
good spooky color.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You got good purple spooky light. And I backlit the tree in the way that I wanted it to. So I got a nice spooky purple highlight along the tree edge. And then I was like, well, this light's just sitting here. This looks stupid. So then I took a bush and put it in front of the light, and it hides the light perfectly. And that's a simple example of the shit that you can do in this game that you couldn't possibly do.
Right. So that's actual theme park design.
It's actual theme park design. You can drop the camera down and go.
Can you place audio sources that you then have to hide inside plastic rocks?
Can you record yourself going ooh?
I don't know. I think there are audio sources. I doubt there's a custom one, but I bet somebody mods that in, because I'm sure they're going to just open this up to Steam Workshop, which is going to make all of this stuff insane.
The feature that I, as a person who does not care about video game mechanics, desires the most is to have a first-person walking controller and just stroll around my fucking park.
That exists.
That's all I want is to just walk around and then get on a ride.
Yeah, and every ride you can just snap to like the seat. You can snap to the first seat. You can have like basically any view that ride would have. You
can choose if your roller coaster is one where the first seat or the back seat is the better ride.
Right.
Sometimes it's better to ride in the back of a roller coaster.
Sometimes it gives you the bigger bumps. Like I realized I dropped the camera down. I was just building like a really quick park last night, just slapping something together. I dropped the camera down to see like what my people were seeing, and like because it's just a barren plot in a game engine. It's just like miles of like nothing.
Right. Yeah, of course.
And so like I'm like, oh my God, this is like the worst park ever. This is so depressing. There's just like nothing over there.
Outside of the core.
Outside of the actual like walking path and just like the few like like cool things I'd placed along the path, that like their actual sightline was just garbage. And so I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm gonna have to fix this. So then I just took like a billion different types of trees and built an actual like tunnel. Such that when and then I
that's like the secret
thing
that
it's just
Disneyland
what you do when you have
at.
To make a Disneyland,
have
right?
All those trees,
and also just like think about like what people are like. I made that castle facade, and I was like, well, I guess I can just hide the front of this, and then once they get through it, I don't really care if like this over here looks like shitty or whatever, because it doesn't, whatever. They're not going to actually see this back corner, so it's fine. It looks like garbage, but it's okay. It's crazy. It just turns you. Like this game is clearly more tilted towards just like creating interesting designs versus an actual like video, like an actual like hardcore like simulation game,
right?
It
which
also
makes it really unique.
That the things you're describing also feel like at least the aesthetic concerns when designing a first-person single-player video game.
Yeah. I was thinking about that. I was like, oh yeah, this is like what you have to think about when you're making like a Skyrim or a Firewatch or something. Like
one of those. One of those two.
Well, yeah, but you know what I'm saying. Like
or like Doom. Probably less with Doom.
Well, yeah. Well, probably like Doom in that they can't look. Those people aren't looking up ever.
That's true.
Yeah, I don't know. It does so many things that are really good that I don't think anybody's thought of in the genre yet. Like I mentioned on Twitter, but like the people walking into your park. This is a really simple thing, but most simulation games don't ever think about something like this. But people walking into your park aren't just like single people. It's not just like one person over here, one person over there.
It's not just a particle cloud of humans.
Yeah, there's like families, and they talk. They like the animations are really good, and they talk to each other as they're walking down the street. And then there's like a group of like 3 bro-y friends who are like 12. And it's just like all the stuff, and then like. They don't have the collision working
small clusters of
yet.
Drunk adults wearing only memorabilia from your theme park.
Right, yeah.
You'll know that they've hit the fully accurate simulation when there are like really depressing secret geek weddings happening in the dark corners of your park when people sneak in to get married.
Why is everybody wearing a tux today? This is weird.
When organically huge, just like oceans of strollers develop in like certain areas with a lot of space, and then just like sad single parents standing by them while the other parent with the kid is on a ride.
Yep.
That's when that just starts happening like organically through the systems. That's when they've
when the park opens and people just run to the rides to get their fast passes and then just stand around for 10 hours like well.
God, if you could simulate opening hours, just have bored people in lines outside the park until it's open.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that sounds cool. So it's Planet Coaster and it's on Steam in early access right now.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
You guys want to take a break?
I do.
Sure.
Video games. This episode of Vital Thumbs is brought to you by Blue Apron. Blue Apron sends directly to your home every week a box full of ingredients and recipes allowing you to create delicious dinners in your own kitchen.
A delicious dinner.
A delicious dinner. It's really cool. It's a really cool service. They send you everything you need to make the meal. It all comes in a sort of refrigerated cardboard box. I had one of my favorite weeks of Blue Apron ever a week or two ago. All 3 meals were just different and amazing. There was a grilled chicken ramen, which was like fresh noodles, which was cool. They weren't just dried noodles. And beans and tomatoes and chicken and it was super good. Then there was this Basque style lamb and beef piperade, I guess. I don't even know how to say it, but they're basically these like sort of flattened meatballs that had like breadcrumbs and this like garlic rice preparation and sweet peppers. They were so delicious. And then there was a seared cod and summer succotash that same week, which had a fascinating garnish, which was pickled grapes.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd never done this before. You slice up the grapes, you just spend like 10 minutes pickling them in some light vinegar, and you garnish the dish with them at the end, and it gives it this great like sweet kind of pickly vibe. Just the best. It's just great. I'm learning all, like, the cool thing about it is, one, you get the good meals, but you also just get ideas of just interesting ingredients and preparations. And if you go to blueapron.com/idle, that's blueapron.com/idle.
Just mixing it up.
You can get your first 3 meals free with free shipping. So what have you got to lose? Nothing. blueapron.com/idle for your first 3 meals free. Thanks, Blue Apron. Video games. This episode of Idle Thumbs is brought to you by Indochino. Indochino provides made-to-order suits for you. You provide your measurements, and they will produce a suit that fits you, and they will mail it to you. Now, if you go to Indochino.com, that's Indochino.com, and enter the code IDLE at checkout, you can get any premium suit for just $399.
Nice.
That is up to 50% off normal prices. So check it out. They also have showrooms in a number of cities, including New York, Boston, San Francisco, Vancouver, Beverly Hills, Philadelphia, and then several Canadian cities as well, like Toronto, Ottawa, and Mississauga. And on that note, because they have one in San Francisco, we are going to go in there and get...
We're going to go in there.
We're going to go in there. We're going to get a suit.
Well, we're going to get measured for a suit. We're going to do a fitting.
Right.
But even if they don't have a showroom near you, you can still go to their website at Indochino.com. Just remember to use that promo code, which is IDLE. Sorry, we're going with IDLE now. It's like our thing.
It's our new code.
It's our new code sometimes.
Sometimes.
Indochino.com with the promo code IDLE. We will report back with our results.
Hopefully looking dapper as fuck.
Oh, that's true. We should take pictures as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, once we're all in the near future, we'll always just wear a full 3-piece suit.
You'll be able to hear it on the
podcast
podcast because we'll come through feeling more confident and authoritative. I think it'll be obvious. We won't even have to say that we're wearing new suits.
Readers, listen for the future episode in which you think we are all wearing suits.
Yeah.
You can look as nice as we sound by going to Indochino.com. Use the offer code IDLE.
Yes, for up to 50% off, you can get any premium suit for $399. Remember, that is a made-to-order suit. Get on that.
Wear it. Live
Get in it.
Get in it.
Thanks, Indochino.
Video games.
Hey.
Whoa!
I want to mention one game before we get into reader mail. This is an iOS game that was kind of going around. I saw a couple people mention it on Twitter without a lot of context, and I just downloaded it because it was free. It's a free ad-supported game, and so the risk was pretty low. This game is called Hidden My Game by Mom. That is just, I'll repeat that.
That's a good name.
Hidden My Game by Mom.
Yeah.
And so this is a kind of like a hidden object game, I suppose, is the genre you would call this, which is not really something I'd ever actually played before. It's sort of like a very simple puzzle game where you are given a series of levels in a room and you have to find... I don't know if this is actually what hidden object games are like normally, but it seems like maybe they are. The premise of this game is that you are a kid and your mother has hidden your portable video game system, which looks like a Nintendo DS. It's a 2-screen system that looks exactly like a DS. She's hidden it, and for every one of these 30 levels, you have to find out where it is. On the first level, it's just, I don't know, it's like in a cupboard or something, and you open it up and you click on it, and you tap it, and that's it. It's easy. And then as the game goes on, it gets more and more convoluted. But the thing about this game is that it's kind of... it's ostensibly sort of a puzzle or hidden object game, but it actually in reality is basically a gag game. As the game progresses, the levels essentially become increasingly weird delivery devices for just strange humor and funny scenarios in a way that I don't even want to describe, because it's just, they're so quick. Each level is takes you about a minute. And it's just the game keeps topping itself in a really good way, which makes me think that this game was developed by a Japanese developer. And so you might think the title is like an unintentional kind of awkward translation, but now I don't even know if that's necessarily true, because the sense of humor of the game is so off kilter that I kind of wonder if the title is intentionally sort of
goofy and weird,
yeah. Just in the spirit of the game itself. Yeah. So the one element of sort of challenge in the game is that if your mother appears, you lose the level and you have to start over. And the ways in which your mother can appear get increasingly good and dumb.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's it. That's all I really need to say about this game, because to say more would be pointless, because you can just download it for free if you have an iOS device. I don't know if it's on Android as well. But it is Hidden My Game by Mom! !
Before we get into reader mail, we should quickly talk about Multibowl, which was our stream from this last weekend.
Yeah.
Multibowl it's a video game by oh man, I've forgotten the second person's name. Bennett Foddy, who you may know from QWOP or GURP or Sports Friends, Super Pole Riders. He worked with another designer programmer whose name I can't remember, which makes me a jerk. But it's basically it's taking the entirety of two-player gaming and turning it into WarioWare. It's wild. Multibowl.
AP Thompson is the other developer.
Right. Multibowl is a modified version of MAME that he and AP Thompson have loaded up with a ton of ROMs, but they've gone in and just picked little slices of them, so it plays like WarioWare, except that instead of it being a bunch of challenges made up by Nintendo, it's just like you're playing Sprint, you're playing NBA Jam, you're playing a fighting game, and
you're playing Dr. Mario.
You're playing Dr. Mario. You're playing just any.
It's actually, I didn't even think about what we were playing, but it's a little bit like NES Remix.
It's like NES Remix as well, where it is very much like NES Remix.
Yeah.
Where you'll just be suddenly dropped into the middle of the arcade game Rampage, and both your characters are grabbing onto buildings, and it just puts text up saying the first person to touch the ground loses. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy to have this experience with a bunch of old real ROMs, and it clearly running on top of MAME, because like one of the things that when game emulation first started showing up like decades ago now, I guess, I remember being shocked by the fact that emulators could write out the memory of a game and you could instantly restore. Like, you know, when I was replaying Super Metroid on an emulator, I didn't bother to use the game's in-game save points because the emulator could just literally restore to the frame that I was last on. And Multibowl uses that as the hooks for how its actual game design works, like using MAME as this superstructure to just drop two players into the middle of any game, and then they're clearly looking inside of the way that those old arcade and console ROMs are writing to memory to figure out, okay, which bit flips when someone scores a dunk in NBA Jam. Okay, wait for that to change and then award the player a point. It's a game that I'm sure will never be released publicly because it's basically just a festival of piracy. I mean, it's just like, you know, it's people just digging into the guts of decades and decades of actual commercial video games, then just giving you these little like remixed slices that are at most 90 seconds long. But I hope that it shows up at as many events as it possibly can. If you want to watch us play it, we streamed it for a few hours over the weekend, so the archive video is now up on youtube.com/idlevideos, or if you want to watch the Twitch chat explode, it's also on our highlights at twitch.tv/idlethumbs. It's one of those weird, small experimental things that just never shows up publicly as much as it could, but I'm really glad that it exists.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah. Also, it's really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, we should play more of it.
Yeah, that seems like a thing that would be good to just sort of...
God, everyone has to watch it just to watch any of the games that show up that involve stick waggling or button mashing to complete in, because especially when Chris and Nick were playing, it was Chris, Nick, me, and Ollie Moss were playing in rotation. But man, when Chris and Nick got into button mash competitions, the facial expressions made were very good.
I hate those.
I love them.
But I like watching your face when you're hating it.
It's such a horrible example of feeling like I'm trying as hard as I can possibly try, and I still won't succeed.
Yeah, it's much like the Olympics, Chris.
What?
Which all of this is really. I mean, like, I remember playing the NES Olympics, which was like, you could either use the controller or use the stupid like crazy like 8-button like floor pad. So you could cheat in one of two different ways. You could try and just like button mash on the controller, or you could slap your hands on the power pad instead of actually running. But like that's like, I mean, like, those games are stupid and bad, but like they're also they do like kind of like give you a portal into the mind.
I guess
of, like,
that's true, because if you're at the Olympics, you're at such the peak of what humans can do, but only one person can be the actual,
and by like 100th of a second, by like this much on the bar, like almost nothing.
Yeah,
which is like what it's like to play that, where you see like you're just like this much behind and you can't go any further.
And I just can't. I cannot push my body
physically.
Any
You're
further.
just done.
Yeah.
Yep.
Once again, Bennett Foddy manages to. I mean, he didn't create those games, but managed to get to some elemental notion of what it means to be a human being through a video game.
Who is sad at the Olympics.
That's true. Bennett Foddy, separately, unrelated to his work as the co-creator of Multibowl, has an amazing every 2 year, I guess biannually tradition when the Olympics comes on, which is to tweet photographs of athletes crying, which is, it's pretty bad, but also very good.
Oh, he derives the best pleasure from their tears.
Yeah. Yep.
When all that I knew him was the guy who made Quap, that fit so well in my mental image of that guy. Like, developer of Quap only tweets photos of crying athletes.
Yeah. Well,
doing some reader mail.
Yeah, we can do some reader mail.
Let's read mail from you, the readers. If you want to write us a reader mail for us to read, you can write it to questions@idlethumbs.net, and Chris will read it.
All right. So from Nick West, here we go. Speaking of athletes, Nick West says, on last week's episode, someone referred to the Dota 2 competitors as e-athletes. I think that was Jake, probably. I suggest these fine humans be called Ethletes. I used it in multiple sentences, and it has not failed to make me laugh. Thanks, Thumbs. You're Ethelete from AZ.
I thought that it was going to be proposed that they be called athletes with L33.
Oh my God! No, that's what they actually.
These athletes.
Yeah, that can only work in text. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, that's.
Whereas I guess who are you going to be talking to about athletes in life ever? So.
You can always, if you affect the news broadcast, these athletes.
That's true. If you take the local news, raise your eyebrows, and sort of pointedly tilt your head while maybe glancing at your partner next to you.
These athletes also is allowed. You can go,
These athletes. That's true. Here, alternatively, apply this strategy to any proper noun.
That's true. Mm-hmm. This athlete.
These so-called athletes.
With their competitive games.
Man, that would be an interesting social experiment to see how long until someone punches you in the face is just to
very
conduct
shortly.
Your life
as a news broadcaster
with that weird cadence where you sort of they almost operate in the opposite of punctuation, where sort of they commas and periods they don't acknowledge, but then they insert the commas and periods into all the other places where they wouldn't normally be. Mm-hmm. It's a very strange, weird cadence. I'm continually fascinated.
You should read that guy's email as a news broadcaster.
Oh, that's true.
Just give it a shot. See if it works.
On last week's episode, someone referred to the Dota 2 competitors as Athletes. I suggest these fine humans be called the silliest thing ever. Ethletes. Pronounced Ethletes.
Okay.
I used it in multiple sentences, and it never failed to make me laugh. Thanks, Thumbs. Your Ethlete from AZ.
It's true. I do want to punch you in the face.
Probably not, but that's enough. Let's not do that.
Yeah, no. It had its intended result of both Nick and I wishing you would shut up.
All right, so let's see. Simon Neely writes, "Hello, was listening to you guys talk about potentially going into No Man's Sky without knowing anything about it and being blown away by the scope. This reminded me of Frog Fractions, which quickly became a very different game. Unfortunately, it is such a big part of the game that it would have been impossible to hide. Whereas hiding features or content worked well or failed for different games. There must be a sweet spot for giving away info and saving up surprises. Thanks, Simon Neely." I think that actually worked quite well for Frog Fractions because that game was free, and so you could pass it along to people and go out of your way to say, hey, just play this. I'm not going to tell you anything about it. Just play it because it's free, and that's fine. So I think even though that was the entire game, I think it actually worked great for for like the month when that game was sort of being crazily passed around. I think that was something we very intentionally did with Firewatch. Is that worth talking about at all?
Sure.
Because that was like a very specific and like very controlled choice we made. I mean,
other than a few clips in the E3 trailer, we never showed anything past the first like 40 minutes.
That's not what. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the intro to the game. Is mechanically different to the entire rest of the game, and we didn't hint or acknowledge or show any of it until the game was released.
It was actually pretty conscious to not even tell people that what they were seeing in demos wasn't the beginning of the game.
Right. We acted as though the section after that was the beginning of the game when we demoed it and so on.
Yep.
I think we told maybe one press person about it so that they could just have some context, but then we said, please don't mention this in your write-up, and then we didn't tell anyone about how that game opened, and I think as a result it was particularly surprising and effective for people who played it.
Yeah, people weren't like, there's that twine I heard about.
Yeah.
Also, we thought it was, at least I thought it was kind of fun to not tell people that there was a twine.
There's just a choose your own adventure.
On its face, that's
the beginning of the game.
Very benign thing, but it was.
I love stuff like that personally. Yep. I mean, I'm the kind of person who doesn't care about, well, not doesn't care about, but like I don't particularly care about spoilers of the plot variety if people are actually discussing something in depth. I'm like, okay, that's just comes with the territory. You have to be able to.
If it's the fuel that causes the discussion,
right? But in my own like watching of movies and playing of games, I go out of my way to sort of excuse myself from the sort of preview driven. So I guess the way I feel about it is in reviews or in things that are taking into account the entire work, I'm totally fine with spoilers, but like in the sort of a year before something's out, I don't like stuff just being sort of drip fed to me. And some of my best experiences, like we went and saw Kubo, which is the new stop motion film by Leica, the studio that made Coraline and Paranorman and the Box Trolls. We went and saw that movie the other day, and I knew literally nothing about it at all.
Yeah, I don't think I even had seen the trailer. I just went, whoa, wait, there's a new Leica movie out, and then I went and saw it.
And it was such a nice experience to just, like, it's so nice these days in a world where just, like, obviously there's this massive kind of entertainment preview complex, and it's really nice to be able to just go and experience something cold, which I feel like is just similar but slightly different to the notion of spoilers. And I might be splitting hairs, and maybe they're not that different, but there is something about just sort of like disconnecting yourself from the hype cycle.
It feels like one follows the other almost, because like when I think about what you're saying about Kubo, and how that relates to modern movie marketing. It feels like the goal very often at this point is push the characters and the world onto the audience so far in advance that you feel like you're already friends with, like, you want the ideal audience member of your big entertainment product to feel like they already know and are buddies with the characters before they even get into the thing. Mm-hmm. So then you're like, then the next logical step after that is to also tell them some of the stuff that happens to those characters. So then you're like, oh, this is like when Kubo encounters the da-da-da. It's like, why the hell would you want to know that before you get into the movie? I saw the third Star Trek movie, Star Trek Beyond, and I liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to.
Me too, yeah.
And
you see that, Nick?
No.
The thing that bummed me out about it was that the trailer that made everyone think the movie was going to be a big piece of shit had Sabotage by the Beastie Boys in it, cut over the shot of Captain Kirk riding a motorcycle over a jump, and that was everything about that was a bad choice, because those moments in context in the movie were actually like some of the most enjoyable
they totally
movies.
Worked. Yeah.
Anyway, I don't remember where I was going with that.
I also just wished I hadn't known that song was going to be.
That's what I mean. I wish it would have
been a total surprise.
I wished I hadn't known the song was coming back, and I wished that I had not just had my first impression be an explosion and a guy on a motorcycle.
In some ways, that is like I don't know. I'm assuming the Sabotage thing was a joke in the movie. Was that
no?
It wasn't a joke. Oh, okay. My mind was.
Well, it was also a joke.
It was.
On top of
in the movie, it is a knowing callback to
right.
to the scene in the first movie where he steals his dad's car and plays Beastie Boys.
My least favorite example of this stuff, actually, like even more so than plot elements, is when a specific joke that would have landed a huge laugh in the theater is completely spoiled in the trailer. And then you sit in the theater and everybody has the same reaction. Well, it's not even just that. It's that like it lands and then everybody goes, "Oh, that's weird. Like nobody else is laughing as much." Oh, because they all saw it in the trailer. And you have to sit there and mentally go through like, "Oh yeah, because it's in the trailer."
That's been the problem.
It's like a multi.
That's the problem with trailers ever since a trailer has existed, though. I feel
that's true, but it also is I hate that moment. Ugh, it's such a gross moment. Anyway,
the best feeling is to see part of a trailer that you like and go, "Oh, this movie is going to be good," and then don't pay attention to any of that stuff forever. It's very hard to do.
It seems like some directors had a greater control over the marketing of their films, maybe even up until like the early 2000s, and at this point, it's just like, no way, like you're done.
Do the Coen brothers still cut their own trailers? The Coen brothers used to always edit their own
They probably can, but I think for like big event films or even like something like an animated feature at this point, I just think
I know, like with that Star Trek Beyond trailer, Simon Pegg showed up on the internet and was like, "Sorry, everyone.
Don't look at that." Apologizing for something.
It was like straight up, just don't watch
this.
It's like it actually is bad.
But like I can remember, I guess I'm thinking of things like Spielberg film, like Jurassic Park. The first trailer for that was nothing. Like, and they didn't even show dinosaurs.
Oh, I don't even remember what
there were. No dinosaurs in that stupid trailer. There was just nothing.
That's the best. That makes me
and
so
like,
wistful.
Up to
saying that.
Up to even like I think War of the Worlds. There was no tripod shot in any of the trailers for that film, and I remember thinking at the time, like, "Wow, this is 2005. This
I thought the thing that trailer.
Weird.
Are you sure? Because
I'm positive.
The trailer had the shot of the. We're getting into this here, but the trailer that I believe with almost complete certainty had the shot of them driving away at full speed as the freeway collapses behind them.
Yes, but you don't see the tripod. You see the explosions. The actual thing was not in any of that marketing. And I remember thinking, wow, this is like, we're in the middle of the 2000s, and this guy fucking somehow pulled this off. And that's the last time I can remember that.
It's really weird that
happening.
You thought, wow, we're in the middle of the 2000s.
Well, I did, though, because at the time it was just like, it was already clear. Like,
you're saying that now that trailer would be.
Oh, yeah.
In time.
It would be.
Oh, it would be a rhythmic. Oh, it would be that, but then it would. And then you hit the triplets. It would be clunk, 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 and then it would be. Which would be like laser, explosion, jump guy. Because right now every trailer has to be rhythmically timed to the event that is occurring inside of it.
And then a little tinkly piano.
Right.
I'm so fucking sick of that stupid tinkly piano. Cut it out, movie people. Stop it.
They can't.
Stop.
They can't.
You've done it so much.
That one guy who only knows how to do that is going to be out of work if you...
Once that started happening to Star Wars, I know some people love that, but I hate it. I hate the tinkly piano. It would have been fine if just one movie did it. It would have been clever. Once they all do it,
that's not how it works,
it's not
Chris.
clever anymore.
We've gone off of three different subjects. But
okay.
Remember the
stop with the piano.
Remember the 2 or 3 years when the girl with the dragon tattoo trailer was every trailer, where there was just like, oh, what?
What? Well, you have to be more specific.
It was the trailer was just like a driving drum beat and huge title card, then a shot, then a huge title card.
Yeah.
And it was like...
And the first time you saw that, it was like cool and surprising.
Yeah, and then every trailer for 2 years. But now we're in the Tinkly Piano Jurassic World / Star Wars Episode 7 and the like... every trailer. Anyway, it's good
that
times.
one's so weird because it
Oh, it's everywhere.
The klaxon, it's everywhere.
Every trailer can't resist.
It's just the alien thing. Yeah.
Anyway, we hate everything.
We're grumpy. Jesse writes, just started watching the RimWorld video Jamestown series. Okay, the RimWorld video Jamestown series. And I noticed, so this is in reference to...
The RimWorld video Jamestown series.
This email for context is in reference to the story I told 2 weeks ago about the beautiful chair, the beautiful piece of art steel chair that was created with an image of Nick Brecken retching. If you remember that. And if not, go back and listen to it. Anyway, so Jesse writes, just started watching the RimWorld video Jamestown series, and I noticed that Nick actually vomits a lot. Pause at 1 hour, 38 minutes, 10 seconds in the first video for an example. Very often, there will just be multiple piles of Nick's puke all around the base. Gross. Jesse from San Diego.
Okay.
So I guess we now know why the artist chose to depict Nick Brecken barfing on the back of a chair.
It was clear to me.
It was it was just such a common event.
Yeah.
What would be emblematic of our fine colony? Well, this happens all the time. Anyway, thanks for listening to Idle Thumbs. Thanks for listening to us gripe about shit for an hour. Next week will probably be less complainy, I bet. But if you for some reason enjoy this podcast and would like to recommend it to a friend, please do so.
Or complain about it to a friend.
Or complain about it to a friend in a way that maybe is endearing and enticing. Please do. It helps us out a lot. If you would like to leave us a review on iTunes and be more positive than we were on this episode, you can do that on iTunes, and that helps us out a lot as well. We're on Twitter at twitter.com/idlethumbs, on Facebook at facebook.com/idlethumbs. You can send us reader mail. We didn't read a lot of reader mail this week, but we'll probably read more next week. Questions
We were too busy complaining.
We're too busy complaining, yes. Questions at idlethumbs.net. We stream. Hopefully, we're going to get back into streaming games more frequently. We've had very busy weeks for various reasons recently. But twitch.tv/idlethumbs is our Twitch channel. And actually, I don't think we've mentioned this yet on a podcast. We recently unlocked 2 more Twitch chat emotes. We now have amazing little tiny faces of Steve Hotscoops Gaynor and Doug Tobacco, longtime Idle Thumbs web host, engineer, general tech guy, and also co-star of The Walking Dead Season 1.
That's true.
Doug, you may have failed to save him. He is now also in our Twitch chat for subscribers, along with Steve and all the rest of us.
He looks very dubious and generally displeased.
He's very dour about what's going on, which is a good emote to have.
It's a good emote to have. It's very not representative of Doug.
No, Doug is actually like the most pleasant person you could meet.
But the one time he looked really displeased, it was then frozen and turned into a Twitch emoji.
Yeah. So when Nick or I do something really obnoxious in a game, you can spam
Doug.
us with Doug's.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a twitch.tv/idlethumbs, and then all of those playthroughs go up on YouTube at youtube.com/idlevideos. You can watch our recent Multibowl stream. You can catch up on my RimWorld streams. Been a while since Nick streamed anything, but maybe that will change soon. I don't know. You'll have to find out.
You've got to keep Planet Coaster from overloading your CPU so we can stream it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty rough.
All right, man. That was a lot of stuff. Well, thanks for listening. Talk to y'all next week.
Bye.
See you, Chris.
Bye.
See you next week, Chris.
Bye forever, Jake. You know when people squint their eyes to look dubious, do you think that's like any kind of intrinsic human behavior? Or do you think people only do that because they learned it from like cartoons?
I think it came from probably cartoons, but also, I mean, I think the place that it came from, as a person who should wear glasses more often, is...
Yeah.
I am not certain if
it
I'm
does
seeing
actually.
this.
It came from a more literal place of
like
I'm literally not certain what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see it.
Yeah.
And then that ends up reading as like, I'm kind of philosophically not sure about this whole thing.
Right.
Even though your eyes have nothing to do with like seeing.
Am I seeing what I believe has turned into like...
Yeah. I bet there's a lot of facial expressions that we have basically internalized from cartoons in that way. Mm-hmm. Where the cartoon is like the sort of extrapolation of it that sort of serves as shorthand for a thing people don't actually do, but it seems convincing. And now we just all do it because we've spent like a century looking at
probably also
like
came
Bugs
from
Bunny do it.
Outrageous like stage acting.
Oh yeah, vaudeville yeah, that's true. Yeah, I bet that's true. You're right. Huh. I wonder if there's a field of study of that, like linguistics, that studies that. Sorry, I just made dubious eyes at Jake.
Oh, just on the podcast?
Yeah, it would be.
Oh, it would be a rhythmic. Oh, it would be that, but then it would. And then you hit the triplets. It would be clunk, 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 and then it would be, which would be like laser, explosion, jump guy,
and then one big, and then a little tinkly piano.